16th time.
Okay, I think that's it. Okay, Baba. So I think it beeped. I'm glad I checked it and didn't
Yes,
go.
yes.
It beeped just, you had talked about your spiritual practices, and if you can start again with your children.
Okay,
Just
yes. So I have two children, Emma Sintayu and Andrew Mignon, 8 years old and 4 years old, and they've been with me for 4 years. I adopted them from Ethiopia, so basically we've been a little family living here in Malta for about 4 years. Within this experiment we call life, having children is a very spiritual experience, and I would say being initiated into meditation, one of the strongest spiritual experiences one could get, or mother could get, would actually be having children. The experience is an interesting one because it requires a lot of sacrifices, it requires a lot of love, it requires a lot of consciousness, and it requires a lot of this bringing into consciousness things that are subconscious. And that is what spiritual work is all about. So once you have a spiritual background, and I have 25 years of meditation behind me, and I've been vegetarian for 25 years, and I've been transforming all the different subconscious matter into consciousness or into virtues for a long time, you are almost called as a mom to do it with your children, and to come back to it over and over again, and to work on it over and over again. So being put into a situation where you are actually surrounded with these little beings that are growing, with these two souls that have their own demands and the way of looking at life, etc. I had to learn a lot about motherhood. I had to learn a lot about myself. I had to continuously come back to myself, to my decisions, to the conscious choices I'm making, and continuously learn from them within this completely new experience. Now, I would say what happens at the very beginning is that we are faced with something we never within this life experienced before. We passed through the experience of being a child, but that doesn't connect us to this motherhood, to the experience of being a mom. Experience of being a mom, and a lot of moms are sort of 100% moms while they are moms, so they stay with their children all the time, watching them grow, requires almost 150% of your time as opposed to 99% of your time. So to actually go a step from not being a mom to a step of being a mom, you basically go through a huge transformation where you don't have your time any longer, where you, when you have your decisions, you have to bounce them off of these two little beings that live with you. You have to learn how to cope with all the different mundane things of the world around you, like changing nappies and being awake during the night so you can feed the baby, and incorporate your practice or what you have learned during your meditation or during your spiritual upbringing. So it's quite an interesting sort of set of skills and tasks that develop within this process, and a lot of children actually suffer because mom is going through this process. Because I would suppose that each mom has a huge, tremendous amount of love towards the children. But this mundane can so easily suck moms in that they forget to actually constantly bring this joy or love into the relationship with kids. And then we get grown-ups that remember of their moms only this very harsh, controlling individual, as opposed to an individual that is full of love, joy, and games within herself. So that is a major challenge that a mom has to go through. And the way I went through it is, first of all, there's this whole thing of the mental, physical, and emotional development of one's being that needs order, that needs regularity, that needs meditation, that needs very good care of food, vegetarian food, that needs very good care of the impulses that are coming from outside, like music or TV, etc. So if you are a spiritual being or working on a spiritual practice, you try to give your soul all of those beautiful impulses. So for example, sound-wise, you're trying to listen to mantras or listen to classical music because that feeds your soul. But then the children come along and they start singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and they don't sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star once, they start singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star 100 times. So you hear Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars and you start shaking. Then on the physical level, if you want your environment to be, you know, as clean as possible and as full of warmth and beauty as possible, you get these little beings that shit all over the place for 2 years, and you have to deal with that constant challenge within yourself and within the environment. Now, again, spiritual upbringings have brought me this wish not to compromise on the things that I believe are right for my children, for me, and then obviously it would be for my children. So, for example, if I believe that the best way of feeding is vegetarian, I will obviously try to give that to my children. Now, once the children are growing up, the social pressures are much higher than the social pressure you have as an individual living alone, because this is my choice. I'm giving it to myself. Once you are actually giving that choice to your children because you believe it's the best, a lot of people will come with their advices and their certainty that they're not going to grow up as proper adults, or not get enough nutrition, or not be properly treated, or their unconsciousness works against you, because if I tell a teacher, listen, my child is a vegetarian, do not give him anything to eat at this party, I would expect teacher to actually respect that. But unconsciousness of that teacher often will cause me stress, because she's not gonna all the time react the way we would like to. So just an example, Emma was at her school and she asked the teacher, can I eat this? And these were the meatballs. Now, we have vegetarian balls at home that look fairly similar, and her question, can I eat this, meant, are these vegetarian? And in teacher's mind, that meant, oh, her mom doesn't give her to eat meat, so I should say yes, because, you know, this is like a free will, she wants to eat meat. So then Emma came along and she told me there were vegetarian bowls over there. And I said, that doesn't sound right, I'll inquire. I called the teacher and she said, no, they were meatballs. And I said, but what happened? I told you not to tell her. She said, but she asked me, can I eat this? I said, yes, and her question meant this and this. And she understood a completely different thing. So you're constantly bombarded with these type of situations. And if you're not compromising within your set of beliefs, then you will constantly come back to what you think is best for the children, what you think is best for yourself. So another example is the mental pollution that exists within this world of parenthood, that is caused by these thousands of years of stories that are completely crazy stories, like Hansel and Gretel, or all these princesses that are forever asleep and do absolutely nothing in their lives, or princesses that are waiting for the prince, and that's the peak of their, you know, that's how they actually reach their highest potential. I actually don't want my children to grow within these stories, so we either invent our own stories, or you know, we basically go back to myths and legends of the countries, and then we expand from there, as opposed to go back to Sleeping Beauty, or go back to stories of Snow White, etc., that are constantly within our surrounding.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. You know, those are fairy tales are a very major part of Steiner education.
Yes.
Remind me later and we'll talk about it.
Yes.
If you don't. Anyway, go ahead. I just
yes, interesting. Very interesting.
Very major part.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you create your own.
We create our own. We try to create as much as possible of our own, and it's not only me creating my own. So I show them a photo and say to Mignon, now tell me a story about this. And he will tell his own story, which is very short, but nice. And then there would be Emma creating her own story, and me creating my own story. So then I can take them into the different spaces, so they learn as much as possible. Music. Just back to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I mean, so many times we read researches that Mozart is good for children. So I was not compromising on Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I wanted Mozart to be on. So these days, if Emma chooses her music, she would choose a piece of classical music and really enjoy it. It's not that they wouldn't enjoy it. They actually do, and even Mignon, when he looks through the radio and he comes to the classical channel, he stops. He says, "I want to listen to this," and he's 4-year-old. It's very nice. They actually absorb what you give them, and if it's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star that you give them all the time, that's what you're gonna get. Development of their emotions, development of their potentials, creative potentials, etc. Because of my spiritual upbringing and because of the surrounding that has its own way of looking at things, we do not exclude God within our surroundings. So we will have different rituals that mention God, or different little things that will bring them back to this feeling that they're not alone in the world, that there is something above this I'm here as a human being. That would be connection with the nature, constant reminder of this connection with the nature. That would be meditation before we eat, so they don't go immediately into the food very, very quickly and very, very fast. That would be basically doing little prayer after we shower. So, you know, they come into this, there is something else there than just the mundane reality. But then when she comes back and asks me questions about God that sits and looks at us, I cannot, answer. I cannot feed her imagination in that way, because I think it is not healthy. So we try to distinguish between superstition and reality. So I had one of my non-compromising beliefs is not lying to children. So if I, as their mother, start lying to them about any small thing, then they would find that behavior normal and natural, and my thinking is that they would start reproducing it later on in life. And lying to children is so much part of our culture that you wouldn't believe, unless you are a conscious being trying to stop this particular thing from happening. So from the stories of Christmas, Father Christmas who comes and gives you presents only if you're good, to the fairy tales that come and give you money for your tooth because you've been good to your mommy, you know. Good, bad way. I try to avoid these words at all because I didn't want them to believe they're good or bad at that stage of their development. They would be conscious or unconscious, and my conscious self would try to direct this unconscious being, and that's where the struggle was, between the major struggle first year of our existence was actually in this me consciously trying to direct and form this unconscious being and not giving him enough time to experience this unconsciousness through its play, through its... So with Million, because he was with me as a baby, I had more time to get in touch with this slow progress of unconscious being becoming conscious. So, for example, he would at any point, all the times, say different things that I do. So he would say no and go and try to catch a particular object that I'm not letting him catch. While with Emma, because it was my first experience of a child, and that's why I think the eldest child actually has most of the difficulties growing up with their parents, I would say, no, you cannot touch this. And I would be firm within this no. And with Million, because I grew up with him and because I decided to go back, I always decided to go back to this love and patience and softness and respect towards this little soul that is in front of me, my reaction second time round is not, no, you cannot touch this, is, I'm gonna tickle you to death. And I start tickling him at that moment. So he knows if he says no, he's gonna get tickled, and we start laughing and we go into something completely different. Or if they ask me for something, I don't tell them, listen, we're not going to do it. I don't go into struggle or, you know, head-to-head argument with it. So if I'm waiting for them to finish their play at the playground and inevitably they'll say, no, we're going to do it, we want more, I would tell them, yes, do it more. We have another 2 minutes. And this 2 minutes is perfectly okay for them. But you respected their wish to do it more. So within my learning as a mother, I constantly had to come back to respect, and I constantly had to come back to love, and I constantly had to come back to patience. So there is almost a set belief that you would say it once, second time you'll be a bit firmer, third time you'll be real firm about this, and if it repeats more than 3 times, you will make the child know that this is it, there is no way this, and so some parents will use punishment or hit the child or anything of the sort, you know. So